Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Outside the Rally. I'm your host, Dean Baer. Tonight, I have the pleasure of talking to another racquetball great, someone who has played in multi-generations. I think he was one of the most intense players in the game, someone who could say so much with just the stare, Mr. Cliff Swain. Cliff, welcome to Outside the Rally. Cliff, how are you? How's everything going? Good?
Thanks, Dean. Thanks for having me. Things are spectacular.
Everybody's
Everything's
safe.
good.
Let's
Glad to
get
be on with you.
those pleasantries out of the way. Everybody's
Yeah, I
safe
have
at
two
home?
young Yeah, everyone's good. Wife's amazing. Kids are great.
Well, the chat box.
Missing some contact sports for the kids, but
Yeah, they're a little restless, I'm sure, right?
yes.
Okay, so let's get right
Tired of
into
my
it.
son pinning me.
Oh, so let's get right into it. The chat box is going crazy already. So here is your professional singles record: 755 wins, 217 losses. That's a 77% win ratio. You played professional racquetball for 34 seasons, Cliff. 71 titles and 42 additional finals. 6 year-end titles over 3 decades of racquetball. You have seen it all, in my opinion. Cliff, I have to ask you right off the bat, who is the best player to ever play besides yourself?
Hey, I love how you come out with that one. That's good. I think that you put Kane, Sudsy, Hogan.
The Mount Rushmore, huh?
I'm going to say you had the most underrated one of all time. You had Jason Menino in there. The tricky part is, like, all of them, they did it all, right? Numbers wise, statistically, of course. But what you really didn't see was them doing it together. And I don't even mean head to head. I just mean that head to head, week after week, week after week, month after month, year after year. It's a serious grind. And that's where you would have seen who was the best. And that's how we just won't know. I've seen Sudsy do great against Kane, vice versa. I've waxed by both of those guys, vice versa. Hogan also. So I just have to say that all three of them, they're beasts in that. Like I said, I had Menino in there, and just really good stuff. They're amazing athletes, super competitive, and that's just
so it's
how we have to leave it, I think.
Kind of like football. Any given Sunday, any one of those guys could win on any given Sunday, depending on what Sunday.
Well, that's what I think is different about. That's what I think is different about football and the Super Bowl. Like, the lesser team can win, because it's a one game thing, right? But 4 out of 7, less likely the better team's going to win. That's what I'm saying. Week after week, month after month, with a grind, then you would have seen who's the toughest, who shows up the most fit, and then then maybe you would have seen who's the best ever. But when it's just so that's the tricky part.
I gotcha. So
see who can handle the grind.
Here's a list of the guys you competed against. This is insane. We said Monchik, Menino, both Pecs, Hogan, Guidry, Ellis, Harnett, Gonzalez, and Obremski. Who was your toughest opponent? Now, I know sometimes game styles come into play there. So who gave you the most trouble? Might be not one of those guys.
I would say that, like, no, all of them are super tough. Again, I have to go back to Sudsy and Kane. Those are the two guys. You could play really, really well. I could play really, really well against them, and it could still go not perfectly. I could come up on the short end of the stick. The other guys, I felt like if I just did my job, things would go the right way. But oh man, such a tough crew to play against, all of them.
I hear you there. So can you describe the fans from the past opposed to today? Is there a difference? Like kind of like with
Yeah,
the
I think
fan
so.
experience?
And I don't think it's. Yeah, I don't think it's. I don't think it's the fans themselves. I think I definitely have to say, I'm sure the younger guys, if they're listening, probably not. They won't like to hear it, but the nastiness is not out there right now. I don't see the vicious competitiveness. I just don't see it there, and I don't know what the heck it is, a generational thing or the mismatch thing. Kane's just better than everyone else. I don't see it. But one of my favorite things to do in the past at the U.S. Open, against Kane, against Sudsy, against Ellie one time, I would sit there. There was a spot near the court where we had to be while the spectators filed in, and you know, they would be like pulling for Sudsy and pulling for Kane, or someone pulling for me, and listening to them. And I feel like it was super intense because we were super intense, and we weren't any less friendly to each other off the court, I guess, but on the court, I don't see the. What do you think, Dean? I mean, I do not see.
No, I mean, I
The
played back.
viciousness. I really don't.
I know I played back in the 80s. I mean, you were on the court. You hated that guy. He could have been your brother. I played against my brother. And the only thing I wanted to do was beat him.
Yeah.
Jason and Sudsy, great friends, cousins, brothers, whatever you want to call it, relatives. On the court though,
Yeah.
no. And I don't.
Not at all.
Marty Hogan talked about it. He says, it's the same. So speaking of fans, I have one of your biggest fans. I have one of your biggest fans right here, and I want to bring him on. So Shawn Royster. Shawn, welcome to Outside the Rally. How are you?
Hey, good to see you, Dean. Thanks for having me.
So Cliff, you didn't know Shawn was coming on?
I had no idea, but it's my night.
Good. We're glad. So,
hey, dog.
What's up, dog?
Let me start off by saying, Shawn, I've watched many of the matches that you were commentating for with Aaron Katz. Let's get the big hitters right out of the way. And you were one of the best on the microphone, I have to say.
Thank you, brother.
But you were a little biased towards Cliff Swain matches. So how come?
It's funny you say that because
I don't think you were, Shawn.
Oh,
sorry to interrupt.
What do you think? Go ahead, Cliff. Before I say anything, what do you think about that comment?
No, well, when I watched, I think you were just stating some facts, but I think you just weren't biased enough on Aaron's side to make him comfortable. That's what I think it was.
I tend to go the route of I feel like Aaron was pretty biased towards Cliff's opponents.
Whoever.
A lot of the times. Giving a good example is the one that recently has come out as a clip. Recently is the one with Jack, and that's the one that's clearly me going Cliff. And the background behind that was Aaron was rooting for Jack, and that's just very clear. They had a relationship at school. I had a good friendship, and Cliff was mentoring me at the time. Everything was cool. So I didn't have that vibe with Jack. I didn't have that kind of relationship and friendship with Jack. I had that with Cliff. And when I could just sense a little bit that the unbiased was happening with Aaron Katz, then I just decided to just keep it real on my end and go, I didn't hide it very well at that point. Then it was full rooting for him.
I thought it was pretty cool because there was some times where, Aaron kind of was calling you out, saying you were like,
right.
Rooting. And hey, it is
no
what
problem.
it is. It's a tough spot being behind the mic. These
no
guys
problem.
Off the court. It worked out. It worked out for you guys, right? So Cliff, so now I have to ask you, did you know that Aaron was like a big Jack fan? Was that known out there?
Well, I think I had seen it maybe a year before or 2 years before. He had been the guy, Shawn. So it wasn't brand new. I feel had I been a little more gentle to Aaron on the court, when we went head to head, maybe he would have been a little less obvious.
But
I don't care. It didn't hurt my feelings. But wow, was it blatant?
Love it. Love it. So I heard the nickname that you have
I should have let him score a point or two.
Yeah, you should have. I heard the nickname of dog thrown out there that you call Shawn dog. He's calling you dog. How did you guys come up with that kind of banter towards each other?
Yeah, what'd they come up with, dog? Is that you? Is that how you talk out there?
Well,
you say dog all the time?
Well, he used to call me dog. I'm like, don't call me dog. I'm not a dog.
Come on, dog.
So I just said, stop calling me dog. I'm not a dog.
And then he never called me by my name again. Then you called me dog from that point on.
I just doubled down and
see, Cliff was tired of parking the car, right? From up there, right?
Shawn? That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Accents and all.
Okay, so Shawn, I want to ask you like a broadcasting question. So it seems like the broadcast side of racquetball is a little bit different today. Do you think it was better when you were able to kind of, cut the videos and shorten the length of matches to fit a TV time and edit and add the audio calls, or like it is today, live, and it is what it is, and whatever said is
better?
Said.
Yeah, better. I don't know if that's the right word. I think there's a lot of various opinions about the way racquetball has been broadcast over the years. Mm-hmm. I've heard people liking it the way that we do it, the way that it's been done live, because it's raw and it's happening right there and nobody wants to have anything cut out. I've heard that. I just made the specific choice that, and it really was a personal choice, that if I'm watching racquetball, I want to watch the perfect camera on every single shot. And that's a ton of money, as you can imagine, in post-production. Yeah. And what it takes to actually take 7 cameras around the court, stop before every shot, and see which camera is capturing that shot the best. And then we edit that. The hours that takes is crazy. However, I felt like we were putting out a product that I wanted to see. I wanted to see my favorite game, the fastest sport in the world. But every camera shot has it. Some people said, oh, that's just too busy for me. I just want to have a one center frame shot and watch the game that way.
I mean, I've watched those matches, and it just, the flow is fantastic. I'm a little jealous, and we can compare ourselves, or some people compare us to, well, ESPN, they have a $100 million budget for a match or a game, and they got 40 interns running around, and we got 3 guys, trying to hold 2 microphones. So
totally. Yeah, no, exactly. It always has come down to money. So if there was ever any cash that could be put into it, we could do all kinds of stuff.
The job that you did was absolutely fantastic. I love watching it, and I love hearing the analysis. It's great, and I think it helps promote the game, which is what.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Likewise to you too, man. Just a huge credit to you guys for what you're doing.
Thank you. So you guys called the matches together for the U.S. Open, the finals and stuff for the Tennis Channel. Shawn, how did you pick, or did you pick Cliff to be your partner?
I did. I like working with Cliff, and him and I have done that before. Him and I have been sitting in the sunshine on the beach doing outdoor racquetball. We have also sat in front of in Fullerton at that outdoor event where there was the Pro Nationals, that they built that court on the roof there. So we've done it a few times. I like the fact that, number one, he's the legend, and he's got the clout to be able to sit in that seat, and he's got the name and all that. But then we've got a friendship and a banter, and I like that sort of natural thing that we can play off each other. If any boring moments are happening, or if there's any elements where we have to kind of fill it in, there's not really an uncomfortable silence there. So that's some of the reasons.
Do you think so you would attribute the friendship off the court to the dynamic on the court? Cliff, would you say that's true?
We'd still be good if we hated each other.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, right.
That. So
yeah, we'd still be professional at that point.
Yeah,
I could say this for sure from my end. Shawn is a professional at making the production, and whoever I guess you could say your expert in the sport is, it's really crucial to have someone that can, send it to the player in the right way, to do it the way Shawn does is, I think Shawn could do this in any sport. It would be really, I think you should try it in sports too, Shawn.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. So, Shawn, I know you were supposed to be at the U.S. Open this year to host the big gala. When I heard that you were hosting it, I was super excited, actually. Given the state of the world that we're in right now, I'm not really sure that a big event like that is actually going to take place. We all have our fingers crossed, toes crossed, and we're hoping. But can you explain how you got involved in the U.S. Open, not only the gala, but, from doing the Tennis Channel in the past?
I think the whole thing really started back in the was it ProRacquetball.net? You remember Ed Arias? He would bring, I guess maybe even before that, Ganem and I were screwing around talking about hyping up the crowd a little bit at the US Open. So I always took it to the next level, and most of it was trying to make other friends, like Cliff and Suds, whatever, get them the shock value of putting costumes on and making everybody laugh and just adding some entertainment in between matches. And so I would do various things but it was always trying to see if I could one up and get some shock value by doing a Michael Jackson performance or something. So it went from that to then calling matches for Ed's operation. And so he would have Dan Lacera and I jump on the mic, and sometimes sometimes Dan would be doing it by himself while I'm doing the fire up with the costumes or whatever, and then I would join Dan and get on and do it. And then that evolved into Ganem wanting me to start doing some of the TV stuff. And as I was getting into television at the time, I mean, as 18, 19 years old, I was working for MTV or something, and started producing some stuff on my own and getting into that production game. And that evolved into Ganem and I talking, and it was really him establishing that I could do the whole thing. And I told him I could. So he trusted in me, gave me the gig, and the rest is history. I did all of those.
Another good call by Doug Ganem, to be honest.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Cliff, are you still there? I don't know if we lost him or if he's still there. But let me, while we're trying to get Cliff back, Shawn, you played on the Pro Tour for a few years. However, you're head-to-head against Cliff Swain.
I don't like that.
It was 2-0, and you didn't take a game off him. I don't even think you sniffed a game.
Oh man,
what was it like playing him on the court? And when you guys were playing matches, were you guys friends at the time?
Yeah, Cliff and I have been friends for a long time. Yeah, you are, buddy.
Yeah, you back, Cliff? We hear you.
There it is.
All right. Riding in cars.
Right here. Sorry, I haven't gone anywhere. Now we're back.
You're still on it.
We got you. So, yeah. Cliff, I was just asking Shawn.
Nobody's. I'm right here, guys.
He didn't sniff a game playing you, and how intense. What was it like playing Cliff Swain?
Listen, Todd Boss hasn't seen the stuff that's happened outside of the Pro Tour. Okay, there's a lot of stuff that's going on. Paddle tennis, ping pong, a lot of. Right? You want to talk about some of these?
So you win all that.
Tennis.
Cliffy, you want to talk about? All right, no.
What was the question again? Sorry.
The question was, I was asking Shawn, what's it like to play against Cliff Swain on the racquetball court?
Shawn will have to answer that.
I don't know, like being stuck in a cell with Ted Bundy.
Wow.
Yeah, just looking for a way out. Really,
I take those as a comment somehow.
Yeah, just looking for the door. Really, yeah. He once it started. That's the thing you appreciate about him is when you're playing is that all the friendship and all the beers and all the fun, smiles and whatever, it all just kind of shuts off as soon as you walks in the door, and I like that. And I wouldn't want him to play half-ass against me, even though he knows going into that match, where my ranking was or where his ranking was. That's never mattered to him. And I think what I learned as lessons of hanging out with him off the court was as soon as you take stuff like that lightly, then somebody's having the day of their lives right there. And they train their ass off just to get that first round match against Cliff. And if Cliff takes that lightly, and just hearing some of the way that mentality works, that there's just never a moment that you take lightly. You don't go out there and half-ass it. And some of those lessons that I've learned from him have gone on to me teaching my kid those same things. Like you don't. As soon as you step out there, I don't care what you think about this kid or how he warmed up or what his ranking is or that you've won the last 3 tournaments. All that's out the door, And he treated me the same way as he would treat Sudsy playing in the finals. And I always appreciated that.
What was it like playing against?
Just as poorly, right?
Piss poorly.
Shawn, what was it like playing against Cliff in another sport where you dominated? Was the tables turned?
Well, I'm still trying to figure out which one that is.
Was there any?
Where have I dominated? Yeah. If I can remember a time where I've dominated, maybe I got him in golf. I got a card the other day. Chris Odegaard and I were looking through our old golf cards, and I found a win against Cliff on a round. So
you got to post that. You got to post that.
So I will be taking pictures of that real soon.
I would like you to burn that. So Dean, I'd like to say 2 things about that, if I could.
Absolutely.
So one thing is I found myself to not be good at doing it kind of halfway. Like I've seen Sudsy and I don't know, a few other guys, they could just kind of relax and loaf and get it done. I just found myself, I did that a couple times and I don't know, usually it went well, but a lot of times I just didn't like it. Next thing, instead of 3 games and, in an hour and 15 minutes, now it's 2 hours and I'm a little sore the next day. And I just didn't like it. I didn't like the way I felt. I found like I failed more than I should have. And that was one thing. But more importantly, I found that, my dad said to me, he's like, people see you doing that. They know what you're up to. And that's not why they came. That's not why they're sitting there. That's not what they paid for. And just go out there and get it done. And it's not like you have to be, I wasn't trying to be super nasty, in the round of 32, but I also wasn't trying to low. But it always came across as very aggressive. But I found that everything was better when I just went out there and was super serious. I won quicker. The guys I played against appreciated it more because I wasn't, when you loaf against someone and you still get it done, it's kind of, I find it to be disrespectful. And I lost a friend or 2 along the way by being super nasty when it's 10-0 in the 3rd game. But I think in the long run they respected me more, and the only reason that I was like that against them is because I respected them. As they were good enough that if I messed around, I feel like I could have lost. But most importantly, the fans, I find I do not like watching 2 guys on the court, even when one is superior and the other one isn't, and they're buddy. It's a waste of my time. I don't like to see it. And I didn't want to. I know that when people come to watch a tournament, it's what they're doing for their vacation often. Like that, they're taking their time, their money, they're getting away from their family, or they're bringing their family with them. They are there to see what you can do, and to watch people mess around and showboat or clown around because you're going to win or because it's easy is terrible to watch. And very early on, my dad pointed that out to me, and I never wanted anyone to think less of me for that. So not my opponent, especially not the people that, spent a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of energy, a lot of effort, booking hotel rooms, booking flights. I wanted them to be very, very satisfied with what they saw. I'm certain that some of the times they left saying, wow, he's not a nice person. But I hope that they were entertained at the same time. I just never took anyone lightly. It was my job as a business, and I wanted to get it done. I wanted to make to make my family proud. I wanted to make the people who spent their time and energy to be there. I wanted them to be glad that they did it.
Well, that's
why I have a terrible
very
reputation.
well said. That is very well said, Cliff. Cliff, I want you to describe Shawn in one word.
So funny. That's 2 words. Funny.
Funny?
Okay. I don't know. There's not one word, but
okay. So
just smiling all the time around.
So
smiling.
This next question is just off the charts. Cliff, what was your thoughts on Shawn being on Fear Factor? Did you ever see it? Because I watched some of it today, and it was gross. So did you know that?
See it. I wanted him to win. He should have won. He did great on the. Do you see him on the Ferris wheel part?
No, I only saw the pizza.
Oh, the Pete's disgusting, but the part where he did the best at, Shawn, you recall on the Ferris wheel?
Yeah. Yes.
Was it a Ferris wheel?
Yeah, I do.
So everyone was, up on top, and I think a bunch of people did pretty well. But Shawn, when he got up on top, which is looking down on maybe Vegas, I'm not sure.
That was Vegas or LA. Yeah, that was LA. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was on a Ferris wheel.
Strut. Just like, might as well just been like walking along the beach. It was great.
Yeah, I went from being the best in that stunt to the worst, because the first one was that Ferris wheel where 6 of us had to run on the Ferris wheel, and people were falling off, and somebody was operating that and making it faster and faster and faster. Yeah. And thanks to Racquetball, I had quick feet and I was able to stay up there, and everybody else fell off at a certain time. and I stayed on until they brought it to it. So I went from the best to the absolute worst in the next one, where we had to eat that food. Yeah.
So how did you get on that? What made you decide to go on that?
I was working in television, and I think it was a reality show. Yeah, like the dating shows, like Eliminate, where 4 guys date 1 girl, or 4 girls, whatever.
Oh, okay.
And I had a friend on Fear Factor, producer, and we were trading contestants. He's like, hey, do you have anybody who is the kind of athlete, sort of whatever? And then I was like, hey, do you have any kind of Valley Girl type or whatever? And like, we would just get these sort of different personalities on our shows. Well, anyways, he's like, my cocky athlete bailed on us today on Fear Factor. And I'm like, why'd you call me? And he's like, can you fill that role? Can you be our athlete, like play up the racquetball thing and just being a contestant? And I was like, yeah, I did it. So I got on there. I said, well, I'm keeping the $50,000 if I win it. So that's how I didn't have to do any of the audition stuff and whatever. And I just got on the show and went for it. But that
pizza was disgusting.
I can't believe you ate that. Oh my God. What?
My son Googled the worst things ever eaten on Fear Factor, and I think that's in the top 1 or 2 or 3 or something. It's the worst.
Really? Yeah. Well, Dean, here's a fun fact. Since you asked me about Shawn, I have me and my wife have a 10-year reunion coming up this next July, and we're gonna go hopefully with this guy right here and his way better than him wife and kids. We're gonna go Hawaii, revisit 10-year reunion in Kailua, Hawaii.
And do Fear Factor on Hawaii, Cliff, or no?
Yeah.
No pizza. No, we're not gonna eat. We're gonna have nothing bad like that.
Well,
like mangoes and pineapple and maybe Mai Tai or 7.
1 or 2.
I got you. So, God, I'm tearing. I'm laughing so hard actually over this. It's kind of funny. So, Shawn, besides Cliff's skill, what made him so damn good? Because he was good. One of the best.
Besides skill?
Yeah.
Well, the hard work, no question. So, even joking around about having a couple Mai Tais or whatever, it doesn't matter what's happening the night before. The very next morning, the commitment to getting up every day. It doesn't matter what you felt like. Doesn't matter if he was sick, or I just watched him do that every single day. And I remember one of my favorite things he taught me that I have taught my son is that if I work out so hard that a 5-game racquetball match is just easy, then that I want to do times 2, times 3, times 5, you know? So he would work out so much harder than what a 5-game tiebreaker match would look like. So that when he went to play a 5-gamer, it was nothing. It was nothing.
It was kind of like running on a Ferris wheel.
It was intense. Yeah, no, way more intense than that. Yeah, so that part I really would have to attribute, you know, a lot of people say, man, I wish I was that good, but how many people are willing to put in that kind of work, you know, every day, year after year? And those numbers you talked about at the beginning, showing his stats, he's been doing that for that many years. And
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So, Shawn, any last words before you go about the great Cliff Swain for these fans that are watching? Because there's a lot of them.
Let me think. What can I say about this freaking guy, huh? No, I think
you don't have to, Shawn.
Yeah, no, I feel like I've said it already. To me, you know, the legend of Cliff being able to outlast so many generations, it just is the testament of hard work and no excuses, and just the ability to get up every day and keep coming back out and doing that. It just shows the kind of character he is. And I'm just proud to call him a friend and my partner in the broadcast booth. And it's really great to have a legend like Cliff in our game that continues to stay in it and be so approachable to all the new players that want to get close to him and talk to him. That he's approachable to all of them too, which I really appreciate that about him too.
Very, very well said. Shawn, thank you so much for coming on today. I appreciate it. There is a spot in the broadcast booth for either one of you, both of you, anytime you guys are around. Please feel free. Again, I appreciate you for coming on today.
Great work, Dean.
You want to say to the dog before he goes, Cliff?
Well, I was just gonna say I can't be in the booth with you guys because I'm gonna be on the court.
Oh!
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, the return
anybody
of
wants
Cliff
some.
Swain. That's breaking news.
Yeah.
We got to play.
Gray, slightly chubby, all of it. Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a very, very short break, and we'll be back with just Cliff Swain right here on Outside the Rally. Thank you, Shawn.
Thank you. See you guys. Cheers.
Hey, Coach Fran Davis here. Check out my racquetball tips on the IRT website, or check out my YouTube channel, Fran Davis Racquetball. Now let's get back to the show.
So, Cliff, hope you like bringing Shawn on. A little flavor there. Kind of thought it was funny.
I did. Very nice surprise.
So I want to stick with the U.S. Open for a minute. Last year you played doubles with Rocky Carson, and you guys upset a team of Andre Perea and Eduardo Portillo. Both are top 8 players on the IRT now. I don't think Portillo was last year, but you beat them very early in the event. And then you made the main draw before falling to De La Rosa and Beltran. So my first question is, what was it like to play with Rocky Carson?
Just as I expected, completely prepared, complete professional. I think we had, somebody said some crazy number like 8, 9, 10 match points against us. And we got it done. And, that's not something you can do if you're the only guy on the team. He was rock solid, completely like this, level-headed, stable. He's a pro. He's a complete pro, and it was great to play with him. I wish we won the next one, but we didn't. But it was, if it was, there's probably only like 1 or 2 other guys on the planet that I could have been playing with, and make a comeback like that. So it was great.
It was good to see. So speaking of the other team, the Beltran and De La Rosa, how good are they as a team? That you've seen quite some doubles in your day, and obviously you were on the court with them. How good are they?
They're great. First of all, there's something besides like on the left and on the right. Occasionally, you get someone they just. You just know each other, where the guy's going to go. It's not something you can talk about or decide. there's too many angles and balls coming in different directions. It's not stuff that you can even discuss. But these guys, they just know each other inside and out, and it shows. And then, not to mention, Alvaro's, there's nothing he can't do. He covers the court. He's totally relaxed. Daniel's great on the left. They're tough. I hated losing to them, but they're good.
Well, I have a feeling that you take every loss pretty bad, and given the intensity that you have on the court that we all spoke about. But I was told that you lost a mixed doubles match against our very own, the IRT's own, Amy Ruiz. She's another lefty, and she plays on your side. Are you still upset at that loss? And is it true?
Well, yeah, I am. I'm upset because I haven't played her again and beaten her. She, it was mixed doubles, and, if I have to play singles to feel better about it, I will. But
So
her and her partner beat me and my partner, so, and I don't like it. She's a great player. Great. I would have to say the best left side female player I've ever seen.
I've played against her too, a couple times, and she's intense. So she's
good.
She gets a lot of that. So that's an interesting fact.
It all went by too fast. I would have hit her with the ball or something. Not that she would have cared, but it went by. Next thing I know, the match is over and we lost. So
when I played, you know the Kelly brothers. So I played with one of them, and then she played with the other one. And my partner hit her square on the back of the head in the middle of a rally. And she just looked like, really? And then got right back into the game. So trooper, Amy Ruiz, there we have it. So
it's just a little rubber racquetball,
Yeah. Just like that a hockey puck, I guess, right? So your first Pro Tour win was in 1985, and you came out of the 19th seed. I did some research. I think it was the 19th seed. Just how much of an upset was that? Because there's some players that they go a whole career without actually winning a pro tournament. So did you always know you were gonna win a tournament? It was just a matter of when?
Well, I always felt like, I kind of try to match myself up against each person, all, from Marty Hogan, Dave Peck, Greg Peck, all the way down. I try to, I was super impressed by them all, but I felt like they're also just men. I felt like if they could do it, it can be done. And, I never really said I'm definitely going to win one or win some or be number one, but I also felt like there was nothing that I couldn't do, everything I saw, I thought could be done, and then maybe slightly better if I worked at it. So, the first tournament that you're talking about, is that Tulsa? Is that when you said I was 19?
It was in 19. It was your first pro win. So I know that it was the time you won a final, and that's usually very special. But you came out of the 19th seed. Was it at the time? Was that considered an upset?
Yeah, well, definitely in my own mind. Like the weekend before, my dad was there, and I was at some open tournament, and I was struggling against open players. And I was saying to my dad, what am I even doing going to Tulsa next weekend? I'm not sure I should be doing this yet. Meaning like time, money, all that stuff. It wasn't like I was afraid to do it, but like, maybe, am I doing the right thing? He's like, yeah, you're doing the right thing. Just do it. Go. And then I played Steve Lerner in the first round. Steve Lerner from California, Riverside, California. And he had beaten me 2 months prior in Stockton, California. I remember it vividly because I really got my ass kicked. 11-3, 11-1, 11-3.
You remember this?
I do, because I felt like he wasn't better than me, and I felt like we were, compatible on the court. Like I should do okay against him, and I just got waxed. And then, when I went to this tournament, after having the conversation with my dad, should I even be going here? And I see that I have him first round of the qualifying. So I don't think I was 19 seed. I think 19 seed was like the second term. But anyway, I just didn't think that I'm like, holy smokes, I got to play this guy first round. And then I beat him in like 4 or 5 games. And then I had Brett Harnett in the 16s, Jerry Halacia in the quarters, Jerry Price in the semis, Scott Oliver in the finals. I mean, these guys were all exceptional. I mean, Jerry Price and Scott Oliver had already beaten everyone. They'd beaten Yellen. They beat.
I don't want to hear the
Griffin.
name Jerry Price, because you coached him against me and he beat me. So let's forget that name.
I'm sorry about that team, but that guy is like, as good of a friend as I could possibly have on the planet. So I had to.
No, I get it. But again, getting back to the mental toughness of the game, you mentioned it that you looked at some of these players like, if they can do it, I can do it. I'm not sure the players today, they have that type of mentality. Do you agree or disagree?
No, I do agree completely. And I feel like it's offensive to them, and I feel like people dance around that question.
Yeah.
And I feel like I watch it with my own eyes, and I see it when they go out there. They're happy to compete. They're happy to score some points. They're buddy prior. I've lost to people that on paper are not as good because they come to go to battle and go to war. Like Jason Menino is always my favorite example. I'm sure he would admit that power-wise or tools-wise, no serve to speak of at all. But he beat everybody, and these guys do not go in there right now against Kane or against, the top 2 or 3. I feel like, they're just not coming there to win at all. And they could. I know there's a few guys out there that could beat anybody on any given day. And I see them get on the court and they are not planning on winning. And it shows, and it's disappointing to watch. It's bad for the fans. It's even bad for Kane, because Kane would rise to the. I'd like to see, it's like the one knock against him, not his own fault, is that nobody really shows up to battle.
He actually mentioned that. He mentioned that.
Yeah.
He's like, listen, I like winning, 15-2, 15-3. He goes, but I appreciate those battles. So I totally get your point. And in the chat box, in the chat box, Alvaro Beltran is watching, and he said you became a legend in Tijuana and Chihuahua a few years ago. He said his neighbors still speak of his legacy, and we're not even talking about racquetball. I don't want to hear it. So we have your kids might be watching, but always a good point. Alvaro always lightens the mood. You said that before when he's on.
That's my pal right there. He's my friend forever, and I barely get to hang out with him, but Alvaro's the man.
So let's stick with 1985 because honestly, that looks like it was your year. You won the Echelon Nationals, and this is who you beat. You beat in the 16s. You beat Mike Ray. In the quarters, Marty Hogan. In the semis, Dave Peck. And in the finals, Greg Peck. What a tournament for you. I have to say, when I looked at that, I was like, holy smokes. What was it like back then? And how did you feel after that specific tournament, knowing who you beat?
It was really surreal. I was so super young and, I mean, really just a kid. At 18, 19,
box, Cliff.
Jerry Price?
Yeah, so he's watching. But anyway, go back. I'm sorry. I had to interject there.
No, and I was super immature, too, in most ways. I guess maybe not completely on the racquetball court. And by the way, I played Brian Hawks in the round of 32, and I think it was like 11-8 tiebreaker. I mean, okay, so just so people who are watching this who weren't there back in the 80s and 90s, this was my experience. So when I came into the finals, it's only a second final of my life. As I'm walking in to play Greg Peck, there's a line outside of the building to get in, and nobody's getting it. These people are not getting it because the whole entire club is so full, and there's 2 18-wheeler ESPN trucks outside when that's how they used to broadcast, right? These big, huge trucks. And the tournament was aired. So I don't recall how many channels there were when it actually aired, but there was not a lot. This is 85, okay? So The match was aired at 2 p.m. on a Sunday, 1 hour before the Lakers-Celtics Sunday battle, which was humongous. There was nothing else on TV. So there was millions and millions of people watching a racquetball match. And I mean, the experience, it was really bizarre. So then seeing it on TV, and then me and my family, we watched it, and then we go out for pizza later, and we're sitting there having dinner, and everyone in the place is staring at us. This is not, I'm not saying this about me. This is about how crazy the sport was and how many eyes were on it. This is a time where every single NFL team in the league had courts in their facilities. Celebrities had courts in their homes. Business parks, businessmen had courts in their facilities at their offices. Every apartment building that was going up had racquetball courts. It was the number one participation sport in the country. It was really, really huge, and I thought that from there it was going to catapult forward and become bigger than it was, and that was one of the last great days, actually. Kind of never happened.
What a day for you. So obviously you ended up getting into the gym. You cut the whole line. Is that how that worked?
Well, we had escorts going. We had police taking us in. It was actually, it's actually people trying to touch us, which is, I went from not being able to win every open tournament to trying to squeeze into a building. And I was just so happy that the sport was that amazing. It was that great, that popular, and it was a good time for racquetball, that's for sure.
Wow. So why did you stop playing tour events? You made a pro semifinals in November of 2015. Then you played a couple events after that and never the US Open after 2016. What made you?
So what's the question? Why did
you stop playing? Was it not fun for you? Was it a lifestyle choice?
Well, somewhere along the way, I realized that I had never been in my own bed there was 20 years that I was never in my own bed for 30 days in a row. And it wasn't like I didn't have any bad times at all, but I did want to have something normal, a family someday.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided that, I could keep going. I really thought that at 20 something, nearly 30, I was going to be done playing. And then Sudsy came along, and that was an amazing challenge. And then he stopped playing, and then I was ready to stop playing again. And then Kane came along. I'm like, all right, let's do this again. So that was another amazing challenge. And then, it wasn't really like I was tired of playing. It wasn't that I didn't think I could do it anymore. I just felt like it's just not something you should do forever. Travel 3-4 weeks out of every month, and I just wanted to have a family and be in my own bed 30 days in a row. That's really all it was. There was nothing bad about what I was doing.
Gotcha. So I know that you're also a hockey player. Did you always play while you were playing racquetball back then in the 80s and 90s, or did you stop and not play? Or
I would usually get out there and do it to some degree. Like there was always like shinny little pickup hockey in my town. You could go at 9, 10, 11 in the morning. There'd always be, especially where I'm from, there'd be a lot of good college players, pros that would even on their way up or on their way down that would be around. So the competitiveness was really good, but the workout was not only was exceptional to me, it's very similar to racquetball, super explosive for a very brief time, recover quickly, do it again, and it was a way to really work out extra hard without, staring at a clock on a treadmill.
That's actually very interesting. I agree. I play myself, and there's nothing like it. Did you find that your body got stronger in racquetball because of your skating and playing?
Absolutely.
Sports.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just it's all core. From it's a very, very similar movement. I used to train at this place with this guy named Mike Boyle. He's very famous around the world. He almost entirely works with pro hockey players, but also Patriots, Bruins. He's from BU, Boston University, and so I was very fortunate to work out with him and a lot of the guys there. And he watched some racquetball. He studied it for me, and he said, "No, we should be doing exactly what these guys are doing. Is super explosive movements, a lot of heavy squats, mostly in the front and back squats, a lot of zero machines, just all pull-ups, squats, lunges, tons of sprints, and because of the workouts I did with him, I never had a racquetball match that was harder than, like Shawn was saying, that was my whole goal in workouts were, so that I would never have a match that was harder than anything I would do off the court.
Well said. So let's transition to Cliff Swain of today. How did you adjust from being a professional player to an instructor and a coach? Because you coach and you teach racquetball today. So how did you make that transition?
Yeah, it was also kind of coincidental. I love being around the game. Somebody would ask me for, a question here or there. Next thing you know, it was something that I was doing. And, and the main reason was that Dave Peck and my dad, they were the two that taught me the most. And, Dave and Greg, I just couldn't possibly say enough about those two guys. I mean, if I can like sidestep a little bit, Dave Peck and Greg Peck taught me how to play racquetball, knowing that someday that might hurt them a little bit. And the reason I know that is because I recently asked Greg, like, what were you guys thinking? You guys were helping me, and you knew that we were going to be competitors someday. And I was wondering if it was haphazard that they were just helping and we're all playing. He's like, no, me and Dave talked about it, and we decided that it was probably going to come back to haunt us a little bit, that if we helped you, but it was for the greater good. And I just want to say that those two guys are two of the greatest men I've ever known, besides not just in racquetball, just in general. So the reason I say that is because when I started teaching, the only thing that Dave ever asked of me, was to pay it forward, because I always said, well, like, I can't even possibly pay you guys back for what you did for me. And Dave would always say, just pay it forward when the opportunity arises. And then it did. Kobe Iwasa and Maria Vargas and Holly Scott. And, so I know that if people are giving good information, especially pros, they're dedicating their entire lives to what they're doing. If they're given the right information, they have the right work ethic, they do what they're told, and they give it 100% on and off the court, then they can have a better life because of it. And that's what happened to me. I did what I was told. My dad, he was really on me about the mental side of it, never taking anyone lightly, always showing up prepared. And then there's Dave and Greg teaching me the skill. I really just did the work. I really didn't. I was born the way my parents made me, and then they gave me the info, and I just put it into play. So
it looks like it was the blueprint. It looks like it was the blueprint of success for sure. But we have a question in the chat box here from Daily Racquetball. You work with pro players, and you mentioned them: Maria Jose Vargas, Holly Ray Scott, for example. Are you actively working with anyone on the men's side that you can disclose? Because sometimes people are taking lessons and they don't want it known publicly. Is there anyone there that you're currently working with? That's the question from Daily Racquetball.
Yeah, I've been helping. I never do come right out and say it. I know, like, a lot of people love to promote themselves and say who they're working with, but I have been helping and working with Robbie Collins recently. And the reason I say that is because he never told me not to say it. So
okay,
he's great to work with. He takes the advice. He follows the lead. He asks questions. He doesn't argue things. He's really, really great to work with. He does what he's supposed to do. He flies out here. We do stuff on the phone, and so I'm willing to work with anybody that goes about it the right way. I also work with Sam and Joe Kelly, which are they're not on the tour, but
they're
also great to work with.
They show up.
They show up. They play hard. They do everything that they're supposed to do. They act like true professionals.
So that leads me to my next question. What do you enjoy the most about coaching? Is it the money? Because
no, you know, to date, there's not enough money in the sport for me to do it just for the money.
That's why I said it that way. But what do you enjoy the most?
Yeah. I enjoy doing it with people that do it the right way. The people that truly care, that are willing to do everything that it takes. If I say show up in shape, you show up in shape. If I say, you know, this is what we need to do, and then you do it, then I enjoy it. People who aren't passionate about it, you know, I'll still do it, hoping that they become passionate or do it the way I think it should be done. And then, you know, it usually doesn't happen, and they fade away. There isn't anyone I really turn away if I don't have to, but I really, anybody who's willing to give it 1,000%. Lucas Lee is another one. He's just a great guy. Tries his rear end
really
off.
Nice kid.
Super nice human, you know. So I wouldn't mind if whoever I work with turns out to be number one and beat some really, really great guys. But really what I care about is, you know, making someone's days better who gives it everything they have and shows up.
That's well said. So I want to stick with coaching or teaching. So what's the difference in coaching or teaching if you're coaching, say, or teaching an adult amateur or a pro player or a junior? Is there a difference?
Will you say that again?
What's the difference if you're coaching, say, an adult amateur, someone who's just, you know, trying to get their skill level up, or a pro player who's got the skill and they got to get it fine-tuned, or if you're coaching, say, a junior player? Because I know that you work with some junior players as well.
Yeah, you know, it goes back to kind of what I was saying. The difference to me is almost irrelevant. You know, like if it's a pro and there's huge things on the line, yeah, it's a little more special, I guess you could say. But I mean, there's people from all over the world that have flown right here to Boston, and, you know, and they're B players or A players, and they don't act like that, though. They are fully dedicated. They'll come for 5 hours a day. They'll do everything I say to complete exhaustion, and it's an absolute treat to me. And then there's pros that come, and there's been a few of them, like, I know this is a waste of my time. They're not doing what I like. They complain about the workout, the exercise, how difficult the drills are. And so it really just depends on the person. I don't care the level. I do love it when it's at the pro level. Of course, it's super fun because it's the ultimate level. But it really, you know, if it's a C player giving it everything they have, I appreciate that just as much.
Coaching and teaching is sometimes extremely gratifying when you see your student make that step from one level to the next. That's what I find, like, just to be great. And I get
basically, if they're all the way in, I'm all the way in. I don't care what level it is. That's all there is to it.
Yeah. I mean, and I see it on the pro level. I watch these guys get a little better. And then you see a guy, you know, win a tournament and you're like, wow, like, I remember his first event. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you have a Cliff Swain racket. Okay. So how does that happen? How do you make a Cliff Swain? How did this come about? Like, where did this come from? That's my question.
Well, it was something that I had dabbled in a few times here and there. And then there was a period, I don't know, say 15 years ago, where I felt like the companies were in collusion, if you will. Not, you know, maybe not legally, but I felt like players were being taken advantage of. But it was not completely their fault. They weren't standing up for themselves, and they were taking less than they were worth. Meaning, not just because they're pro players. You don't just deserve something because you're a pro player. But if you're a pro player and you're affecting sales, you deserve to be paid accordingly. And I felt like there was a little period there that I just didn't like the way things were going. It wasn't super essential to me to have an endorsement from one of these companies. So I started poking around about it, and one thing led to another, and I found a way to get it done. And I was hoping that some of the players would, down the road, maybe look out for themselves in that way. So that's what I did.
That's a very interesting take, to be honest. So
yeah,
I want to see if there's any more chat box questions. I see one here from Tommy Two-Tone. What was the best trash talk line you ever heard or you gave during a game? Wow. Tommy Two-Tone.
Oh, man. So many. Endless.
So many. Oh, God.
But I'd have to say the ultimate is Jason Menino. And the funny one, like, everyone knows that Jason had, never without something to say on the court. But the most underrated person in that area is Derek Robinson. Oh, my God, there isn't anything he would say. I mean, usually deserved, but yeah, so I can't think of a specific anything specific that I could recall. I'm certain I couldn't say here.
Yeah, but there was a lot of it. I mean, I played in the 80s, and that's the whole game was trash talk. Every rally.
Yeah, it was very yeah, there was, thousands of people back in that time that were trying to make it a living. And most of them were. It was a profession. And so it's nothing that you wouldn't hear on an NFL field or in a hockey rink. It's the same old stuff. And it's because there was a lot on the line. There was a lot of money on the line. There was pride. It was super intense. And the main thing is really the money, like there's a lot of money on the line at the time. You could win.
Get it done.
Yeah. So, I mean, you put a pile of money in the middle of a racquetball court and you get two guys going after it, anything could happen. And it did.
Well said, Tommy. So Brent Walters, our buddy from the East Coast again. Do you have any superstitions or rituals during a pro stop?
I for a while I had a couple here and there, like silly things, like don't step on the lines on the sidewalk on the way into the club. But I really, a couple times I stepped on the line, and so I just try to erase all that nonsense and not have any superstitions because, it would be in my head when I broke one of these little superstitions. So, but there were some things I really didn't like to do, which was like change my glove, change my shirt. I just didn't. I wanted to just keep, trudging ahead, and any of those things were, that I had. I would see guys do those things all the time: change their shirt, change their glove, call timeouts. I just wanted to not be distracted, and I'm too simple-minded to have like a million superstitions,
Okay, our next question from the chat box coming up here is, let's take a look. It's from Sudsy Monchek. What was your biggest regret in the sport or your career?
That I didn't hit the Sudsy's forehand more often.
Oof. Wow.
My biggest regret, I'd have to say that of all the things in my career, statistically and all that stuff, that thing that I'm the happiest about is that I don't have regrets. I never lost a single match in my entire life because somebody was in better shape than me. I lost for a whole bunch of other reasons, but I showed up every single time, gave it 1,000%, never came unprepared. And so I really don't. I wish I went about some things. Sometimes I tried too hard. I was kidding. Like, Sudsy's an amazing player. I feel like I played into his wheelhouse all the time because I was trying to do it the way I like rather than doing it the way that would have worked. But that's just a tactical thing. I really, that's the happiest thing about my career is I don't have any regrets.
Well said. So lastly, Cliff, how does someone get a hold of you if they want those lessons or clinics, or if they want a Cliff Swain racket? How does that? What do they have to do?
It's pretty simple. I guess you just go right to my website, which is cliffswain.com, and I think there's a find me spot there, or it's super easy these days, right? Facebook, and yeah, it's super easy. Whenever I can, I'm busy at home. I have a couple of young kids, so I pick my spots, but whenever I can help someone, I really enjoy doing it.
That's very well said. So any last words from you, Cliff?
No, thanks for having me. I hope that I'm really, really hoping that the U.S. Open happens. I'm hoping that courts nationwide are open for business soon. And I hope that someday, before all the private clubs go away forever, I hope that the governing bodies, whoever they may be, I hope somebody starts scooping up these clubs, after they close or just before they close. But because to me, that's one area that the sport has made a little error. And it's easy for me to say from this spot right here. But if there's one thing from a distance, I'd like to see the governing bodies do is, make a club like USAR, for example. They find a home club, grab a club, teach the world how to run a club, make it profitable, have tournaments there, not be at the mercy of a club owner or, one of the chains, and make the sport rebound just a little bit at a time.
I honestly feel like a broken record, because I got to say, very well said, Cliff Swain. It's up on the screen right there, www.cliffswain.com. So, Cliff, I want to thank you for joining us tonight on Outside the Rally. I cannot wait to see you back either playing or coaching courtside or teaching someone. You're a gentleman and a true great in this sport. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Dean. Appreciate it.
Okay,
My
so,
pleasure.
well, ladies and gentlemen, what a great night hearing from another racquetball legend, Mr. Cliff Swain. I hope you all enjoyed it, because I know, once again, I did. Big thanks tonight goes to our guests, Shawn Royster, for stopping in, and to Cliff Swain. And special thanks always to our producer, Mark Gibbs. Next week, we are back again. We will have Adam and Erica Mania to discuss their new venture, Mania Sports. We'll hear all about it right here on Outside the Rally next Wednesday night. Check the Facebook, like our post, and share our feeds, ladies and gentlemen. Good night, Racquetball World.